In this lecture, we'll be discussing about the subaltern perspective of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we begin, let us understand in brief what is a subaltern perspective. It is a Gramscian term which means subordinate group. That means Antonio Gramsci gave this term, and it means the subordinate group, with the group which has been subordinated by the other groups which are in power. And that means this group which is being subordinated is the one which was deprived of power. And therefore, we can say that the subaltern perspective is nothing but the viewpoint of the masses which were unrepresented. So, the masses, the group of people which were not represented properly, they had their own voice, they gained it, they gained consciousness, they gained awareness, and they had their own voice. It was the masses against the elites in political and social movements. We'll be discussing these movements in the forthcoming lessons. The fight for themselves with the society against what? Against the behavior of others in power and against their ideologies, which were working against the masses and in favor of the group in power. Therefore, the people, the masses who had their own voice, they were known as makers of their own history, because they changed the viewpoint that others had for them and also their own atrocities. They fought against it and they became the makers of their own history. Now, beginning with Mahatma Gandhi. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on 2nd October in 1869 in Porbandar, Gujarat. He was a lawyer, a political activist, the father of our nation, and he led the national movement. His contributions are still remembered today because of their significance and because of their unique characteristics. He called himself a philosophical anarchist. He was a very religious man and had his perspectives about polity, economy, and about the society as a whole. He supported the Varna system, and his philosophies were basically based upon the elements of truth, satyagraha, and non-violence. For him, satyagraha was a moral weapon, a non-violent device, and his belief on truth was that it can be attained only through satyagraha, that is, non-violence or ahimsa. He said that self realization is the ultimate goal of life and it can be attained through truth only. You cannot attain this self realization if you are telling lies or if you are manipulating others. Some of his important books are listed here. You can take a look, and some of his famous quotes are also listed here. You can take a look. Now, moving ahead, his views on Swaraj or home rule. For him, Swaraj did not mean independence. For him, Swaraj meant self rule and self restraint. That means restraining from the authority of others, the imperial rule that India was going through. Gandhi was against it and he wanted to educate the people, because it is only through education that the masses can understand what their rules are, what their rights and duties are, and how they can rule themselves. And it is only through self restraint, because at the time when the Britishers were in India, when they were ruling India, the Indian masses, they did not have any knowledge. They were deprived of basic education, as majority of the population was based on agriculture. They were just farmers who had no knowledge. At that time, when Gandhi came to India from South Africa, he saw the condition of the country, which was deep under poverty and illiteracy and many more things, which were kind of the nemesis for a country to progress, because we were already under the British rule and we were not educated. So, how can a country like that overcome this rule of others or have their own rule set up? Therefore, he said that we have to release ourselves from this bondage, and the masses have to gain this power to put their destiny into shape according to themselves and not on the desires of others who are ruling them. He believed that Swaraj is not itself a complete process. It needs to have a Gram Swaraj movement as well. That means the decentralization of power. The power which is centralized in cities, it has to move to the villages. Why? Because villages are the building blocks of democracy. And if we are not going to involve our villages in our democracy, in our decision making, and if we are not going to represent them, we are not going to attain Purna Swaraj. That means complete self rule we will not attain until and unless the whole country is involved in the process. He gave the theory of oceanic circle where he said that the power is not in the shape of a pyramid where the centralization of power is at the bottom. No. What happens is there are various units in a circle, and the center of the circle is always the individual. It does not change. That means the power remains in the hands of the individual. So what happens as the villages increase in number and the area increases, the strength and the power, it begins to become autonomous, and yet at the same time it has to be interdependent. The cities have to be dependent on the villages and vice versa. Only then there can be a democracy, a true democracy. He also proposed for self elected panchayats in villages so that they can take care of their own affairs, because the central government cannot keep an account of the village and the petty village matters or even the important village matters, because the true representation of the people at the ground is required, because we sitting at the cities cannot understand the situation of villages until and unless there is someone to represent them and someone who can understand their true problems and give them a solution based on the experiences and based on the surroundings in the village itself. He worked for the betterment of Harijans or the untouchables. He was totally against this. He was a firm believer in the Varna system, but he said that untouchability is a curse and it should be removed. So he worked in favor of the Harijans. He set up the All India Anti Untouchability League in 1932 when he was in prison, and he also published a weekly publication called as Harijan in 1933. This was also from when he was in prison, and this was earlier known as Young India. Now we know that Gandhiji's contribution in the various nationalist movements cannot be forgotten. It was very significant. Let us quickly see some of the important national movements, starting from the first one, that is Champaran Satyagraha movement, which took place in Bihar in 1917. It was the first civil disobedience movement where the Champaran district farmers were obliged to grow indigo on 3/20th of their land. Mahatma Gandhi fought for the rights of the farmers, and he was successful in removing this obligation. Second, Ahmedabad mill strike, which took place in 1918. Third, Kheda Satyagraha in 1918, which was the first non-cooperation movement. Fourth, Rowlatt Satyagraha in 1918, which was the first mass strike. And fifth, Dandi March, which took place in 1930, which was a salt satyagraha, which started in Gujarat, but later it spread through Tamil Nadu, Malabar, Bengal, Assam, etc. Let us discuss some questions. Question number one: the relationships of domination and subordination in a society in which class division is not as developed as in the industrialized world. This reflects which perspective? This reflects the subaltern perspective, because at that time there was a lack of representation of the masses, and when they stood up for their own rights against the domination and subordination, it was known as the subaltern perspective. Question number 2. According to Gandhi, Swaraj meant self-rule and self-restraint. Answer will be option number 2. Swaraj literally meant independence, but according to Gandhi, it meant self-rule and self-restraint. I hope you got the lecture. Thank you for watching.